Welcome back. I am faculty Amarachi from CapacityBay and I'll be your instructor for today's topic. In our previous lecture, we learned about CSS. We did an introduction to CSS but in this section, we'll be talking about CSS syntax, understanding the syntax of the CSS. So without further ado, let's dive right into our VS Code and learn. So inside here I have actually some files I created, and I don't think this might actually come as a surprise to us because we've talked about all this in our previous lectures. Now, like I said, in this section we'll be learning about CSS syntax, and CSS syntax is just like the grammatical rules that guides the CSS. And without much talks, let's just go straight up. So here right now I'm going to create a folder. We did this in the last class. So like I said, we did this in the last class, and if you haven't seen that, please, you need to go back and watch that. It will actually help you to understand better what we are actually going to be doing today. So what I'm trying to create now is the external CSS. So I just have my folder created, and then inside my folder I'm going to go ahead and create my style.css. Remember, our CSS files always ends with a .css, just so the browser can actually recognize it as a CSS file, and just the way our index.html ends also with a .html extension. Now, having created the style.css, we'll go straight up with what we have today. So the CSS actually have three most important things that makes it up. Yeah, we have three things that makes up the CSS, three very important things that without them your CSS code might not actually work. So the very first one is we have the selector, and the next is we have the property, and the next again is the value. So these are the three things that we have on our CSS. So before I go on, I'm just going to talk about how to do a comment, because I would want to comment this out. So how do we actually achieve a comment in our CSS? So I'm just going to come here, and then I'm going to hit my / key, and then I'm going to enter my asterisk. This is how we create comments on our CSS. And remember, comments are mostly things that the browser will not actually have to work on. So now to end this, I'm just going to come here again and hit the asterisk key again, and then hit my /. This makes it a opening and closed comment. So let me go straight up and talk about what we have today. So the very first thing on the list is the selector. And now, what is the selector? So the selector basically answers the question of who is it in your HTML file do you want to modify in your web pages. Like in our HTML file, we have a lot of tags. We have the h1, the p, image, h1 again, and image, even the body are also. Now the selector is asking the question of who exactly in this index.html do you want to change. Is it the p tag or the image tag? Like, whose style or appearance don't you like? So before I continue at this point, let me just go ahead and open this, my index.html, so we actually see what it is. So, and here I'm going to do this. Now you can see I have my h1 here black and my images. So the selector is basically asking who exactly here don't you like how they appear. Is it you don't like the black color of the h1, you don't like the appearance of the images, or you don't even like the body, the background of the body? That's actually what the selector is all about. And for now, let's say the selector or the who I don't actually like the appearance, let me say my H1, I don't want it to be black. That is my selector. Now after putting in the selector, the next thing you're going to put is open up your curly braces, and inside that you're actually going to now indicate the property. So what is the property? The property is answering the question of what, like what exactly in this my H1 now or even in the p tag do you want to change? Is it the background color? Is it the color? That's the text color now. Or is it the size, the font size? Or you want it to change position? Now this is actually what the property is now asking. The browser needs to know that, okay, what exactly here do you want to change? So let's say I don't like my color. I don't like the color of my H1. I'll just go ahead and indicate, hey, I want the color to actually change. Now I'm going to hit on this. This is an indicator to the browser what I want to change. Now after the color, after the property, the next we are going to have is the value. Now initially my H1 has a value of black, but right now I want that to change. So this is what I will indicate here. The value is the how. Like, how do you now want the property to appear? How do you want the to change the background color? How do you want the color now to change? How do you want the color of your H1 now to be? Do you want it to be maybe blue, maybe red? So this is actually where you are going to input the new value that you want your element to have. That's the new look. So here now, let's say I don't want my H1 to be black, I want it to be blue. So I'm just going to go ahead and indicate, hey, give it to me as blue. But then after doing this, you still see is not reflecting, and that is because right here on my index, remember what I created is an external CSS, but right here in my index I don't have it. Like, the browser is still not recognizing it as something it has to load together with this. It's seeing it as two different files. Now for me to link this up, all I have to do is click link. We talked about this in our last class. Please, you can go ahead, watch it to understand this better. Now this is a link with a relationship style sheet telling the browser that, hey, there's actually a style sheet somewhere that you need to style this particular web page with. And now our href, I'm going to enter into my style sheet folder, and then inside the folder I'm going to indicate that I want the style.css to apply on my web page. You can see immediately that changes my H1 to blue. I can also go ahead and then say I don't also want the size. The size is a bit should I say small, so I can just go ahead and say also change the font size for me. And now I'm going to say maybe let me give it like 100 pixel. You see, so this is it. So immediately the browser recognizes that. Now this is all that you need to know about the CSS syntax. It must have a selector, it must have a property, and then you have to give it a value. And I want to point out this is actually very, very important, because if any of them is actually not complete, then the browser might not actually recognize that. Say for instance, now I take out this here, you can see immediately it affects the browser, or my web page rather. So you have to make sure that all this is actually in place for the browser to recognize it as a CSS, as something you want to change. Now the second thing I would want to talk about is this. Now it's actually easier for us to know our selector. Yeah, I can now come here and know the next selector I have here now is p tag or my image. I can decide, okay, I want my next selector to be image, I go ahead to open my curly braces. But then how do I know the property exactly? How do I know the property? What I will actually recommend is this. Now I know that, okay, I want some changes to be affected, or to be affected rather, in this my image. Now I've already put it down as my selector, as what the browser should work on. And the next thing is asking myself, what is it about this particular image that I don't like? That is it. Asking yourself the question of, what is it here that I don't like? That will help you actually know what to change. Now maybe I don't like the background color, I don't want it to be white as the body also, and then maybe I don't know the CSS property that I need to use to work on that. I can go ahead to search for this. And remember, like I've always been saying, the browser or Google is actually a programmer's best friend. So I can just come and say, how can I change, how can I change my background color in CSS? I can just go ahead and hit on it, and then it will bring it out. It is saying in CSS we use the background color property. Now this tells me that there's a property known as background color. So I can just come here and then say, hey, what I want is the background color. And VS Code also helps us to bring that out. So let's say I want my banana to actually have I don't want it to have a white background, so I can just say, okay, hey, give me my background color also as, let's say, yellow, and that immediately comes up. So this is actually something that can help. Alternatively, we have somewhere, like, I think I have it here. Okay, so you can just go to, so alternatively you can actually just come here. We have developer modes. I actually love using this. So I come here and then I go to technology, inside the CSS I go down and we have CSS reference here, and now below this we have the list of the properties we have in CSS. You can see there are actually a lot of them. So all these are actually what you can use to effect changes on your selectors. So you can go ahead, look at it and feel like, oh, this is actually what I want to use. I want the background actually to change, and then you go ahead to give it the value you want. So this is it about our CSS syntax. I'm going to stop at this junction, and the next lecture is coming pretty soon, and it's going to be an in-depth into the selector, so you don't actually want to miss that. So this will be the end for this section. If you have any question, please drop that in the comment section below. Go ahead, like, share, subscribe, and also hit the bell notification icon to get notified whenever we drop new videos. I'll see you in the next section. Thank you.